we have a lot of news to go over in terms of this episode of the news of the week. And I get seeing that there's going to be a lot more worthy news to talk about during this Gold Cup break because, nobody is playing during this Gold Cup break. There's no league game during this Gold Cup break. So obviously the MLS editor need to create something to talk about. And even though some of these things are kind of a little bit ridiculous, they need to write something onto the website so that people don't just feel like nothing has gone on. And there's definitely a lot of things have gone on, and there's definitely a lot of transfer that is started to kind of bubbling in, and that these rumors could potentially come true once the transfer window opens again in MLS. And the first transfer that I of course will talk about, and this one is a one that could definitely happen, which is the Galaxy are looking to splash $13 million plus 70% sell-on clause to get Cristian Pavon from Boca Junior. Now, obviously, the reason why the Galaxy want to get Pavon is because of the fact that when Schelotto was at Boca Junior, Pavon played with him. And the Galaxy have really needed some more attacking threat going forward because right now their only attacking threat is basically Zlatan. Now, the one big concern about this move, and actually the problems that the Galaxy will have to face in order to get this move done is that, one, they need to open up a DP spot. Right now, they filled up all their DP spot, and there is no doubt that Pavon is a DP player. Like, there is no way in the world. This is a guy that a couple of years ago was rumored to go to Arsenal for $50 million. Now, the reason why the price tag has kind of inflated a little bit is mainly because he has not been performing very well with Boca Junior. I've heard a lot of Boca Junior fans said that he has just completely fallen off a cliff ever since a couple of years ago when the hype was really surrounded him, and that he could definitely be like the next Leo Messi or something like that. And in the last couple of months, he's been relegated to the bench at Boca Junior. And, that's also the other problem I have with the Galaxy with this move, because this is definitely a bit of a risk in terms of getting a guy that is definitely out of form and definitely also out of shape, and that, splashing $13 million, which is definitely a lot of money. It's one of the most expensive transfer in MLS if this would happen. Yeah, that is a bit of a risk. But obviously the biggest problem that they need to address is they need to open a DP spot, and that they're going to have to buy down one of their DP, and I don't see how exactly they are going to buy down the free DPs that they have. Obviously, they're not going to buy that down Zlatan, and most likely, I think the only way that the Galaxy could get Pavon is that maybe once Zlatan does leave this team, I believe this is his last year of his 2-year contract. But once he leaves, then maybe they can get Pavon. But that's not until the end of the year. Or one of the other thing that they could do is just sacrifice one of their DP, and I heard that a lot of rumor that if they're going to get Pavon, they're going to sacrifice Alessandrini, which I think that's a bad idea because Alessandrini, I don't think, Pavon might be a little bit upgrade in terms of the quality that Alessandrini has, but Alessandrini has been one of the best attacker for the Galaxy, and to try to get a guy that, like I said, he's been kind of out of form lately, and that they are taking a big risk in terms of getting him to a guy that that he has been proven that he can be a goal scorer and he could be an attacking threat. It just doesn't make sense, the fact that they would definitely take the risk to get Pavon. But as I said before, there's been a lot of rumor that this is definitely going to happen, and Schelotto has already said that he really wants to get Pavon because of the way that when he was coaching with Boca Junior, he really liked Pavon and he really liked the way that he has performed. But I'm guessing Schelotto probably don't realize that he has not. This Cristian Pavon guy has not looked like the same guy as it was a couple of years ago. And also, the other problem that the Galaxy are facing is that, this is a hefty price, and that the question is, do they have enough money to get him? And that you got to also remember, they bought down that $6 million contract during the beginning of the season from Giovanni Dos Santos. So They already used that amount of money. Will they have enough to secure this deal? So that's going to be very interesting to see. Now, there's also another report that Napoli is targeting Ezekiel Barco for Atlanta United, and I think, I really don't think this is actually going to happen. I think for Atlanta, they will be really kind of stupid if they want to sell Ezekiel Barco right now. I mean, Barco, this season he has definitely started to improve the players that Atlanta really hoped that he was when they bought him on a record transfer fee, and I feel like it is just way too early for them to just decide to sell Ezekiel Barco. If anything, maybe if Ezekiel Barco can do what Miguel Almiron did, which is just stay with Atlanta for another year and a half, and if Barco does end up to be like the player that Almiron has, then they would definitely get a better interest. Like, I don't know exactly how much Napoli is offering them. If they're offering them big money, then, they might make a bit of a decision. But again, I think for the sake of Atlanta and for the sake the fact that Barco this season has no doubt been the most important player for Atlanta, this would just be stupid for Atlanta to decide it to sell him to Napoli. I mean, I know Atlanta want to sell their biggest starters once they, of course, develop. But, there's also a limit in terms of that, and that, you don't just sell your best superstar player if he's only been decent for you for a couple of years, and this is completely different than the Miguel Almiron situation where he's already been there for a couple of years, and I think it is time for them to move on and get the money that they're able to invest in. There's also a report that FC Cincinnati is set to end Kenny Sayev loan early, and this is definitely not a surprise considering the fact that Sayev, despite the fact that when he came to FC Cincinnati and has showed some promise, he has really kind of fall off the cliff ever since. And I also believe that he's currently injured right now, so I don't think they can actually end the loan early if he is still injured. But there is no doubt that Kenny Sayev is not going to be with FC Cincinnati for long. Like, he's already said that he has no interest in terms of staying at Cincinnati. And the only reason why early in the season where I thought, FC Cincinnati, they need to try their best to kind of convince Sayev to stay with this team is because he was in form and he was one of the most important attacking pieces that they have. But ever since that, he has really not lived up to what he has done earlier in the season, and I won't be surprised if FC Cincinnati is going to end his loan early. But like I said, since he's injured right now, I don't know if that I don't know if that can prevent them to, of course, end his loan early. Now, one done deal that has happened this week is that LAFC have sold Andre Horta back to SC Barca, and they sold him back to the club that they got for $3 million. So they did lose $3 million in terms of this deal, because when they bought him originally, I think they got him for $6 million. But in many ways, this is definitely a great deal for LAFC. And in some way, this is starting to be unfair for LAFC. Like, this team is literally the best team in the league by a country mile right now. And now they have an open DP slot, and that now they can potentially spend that extra cash to get a real designated player in this team. I mean, that is just so unfair right now. And, this is 100% a smart move for LAFC to sell Andre Horta, because Horta, he just didn't fit in the system. Like, there was definitely a lot of hope that he can fit into the system when they bought him, but, he's been kind of spending on the bench. And you've seen so many teams these days just get their DPs and put them on the bench. And unfortunately, my team, the San Jose Earthquakes, are one of those teams that decided to just put their DP on the bench and just kind of rot them, even though you shouldn't be able to just put your DP on the bench, because he is one of the highest paid player on your team. And, LAFC know the fact that, if they just keep Andre Horta, there's just no point of keeping him around if he's going to just kind of rot on the bench, and that they should think about getting a real DP. And that is exactly what happened in this situation. They decided to sell him back, and now they open up a DP spot, which, like I said, they can definitely get someone that is could be a real DP, and that this could definitely be a team that no one wants to play. Like, right now, nobody wants to play LAFC because of how hot they are, but if they do get a real DP, and if they get, like let's say, a Chicharito, for example, and the reason why I bring up Chicharito is because he's been rumored to go to LAFC, then this is gonna be a very dangerous team, and a team that I think, hands down, is just the favorites of winning MLS Cup, and they're really it's just the MLS Cup to lose for LAFC if they do get a real DP that's coming in. But next up, we got some bad news for the U.S. men's national team, and if you thought that there is just a panic and just kind of like a red alert with the U.S. men's national team fan base, yeah, things just gets worse and worse every single day for the U.S. men's national team, because yesterday it was reported that Tyler Adams is going to be withdrawn with the U.S. men's national team because he's out 6 to 8 weeks with a groin issue, and Reggie Cannon is going to be replacing him. Now, I'm not saying Reggie Cannon is not a good player and doesn't fit with this U.S. men's national team, but to lose Tyler Adams, which I said that he is got to be a player that is going to anchor that midfield, and now he's not even going to be available for this Gold Cup, which means that most likely we're going to see more Will Trapp, which is the last thing that any U.S. men's national team fan want to see, and now that they also lose one of their most key player in this Gold Cup roster. Like, it just gets worse and worse for the U.S. men's national team, and in some way, I'm kind of starting to really concerned with this team, and, I said that I'm not going to panic until the result shows in the Gold Cup that the team is not doing very well, but there is definitely a lot of concern with the way that how this team is going, especially coming into the Gold Cup with back-to-back losses, and now they lost their most important, or one of the most important player in that roster, in Tyler Adams. So, yeah, this is definitely a very bad news. Now, speaking of the U.S. men's national team, the U23 team the U23 team is going to have like a camp in Utah, and kind of like a training camp, and Jason Kreis, of course, have called up 15 MLS player. I almost forgot that Jason Kreis actually is now in charge of the U.S. under 23 team. Like, it just feels weird, the fact that Kreis is actually in charge of it, and it doesn't feel right, the fact that he should be in charge of the U23 team, especially of how his last two MLS club management has really gone through. But he called up 15 MLS player for this Utah camp, and again, this is just a training camp. There's no game that is involved in this, and there's some notable MLS player that is in this U23 camp. There is a lot of RSL player that is in this camp, and there's also guys like Jackson Yule and JT Marcinkowski that is also in this camp too. And I only name those players because they are currently San Jose Earthquakes player. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how both of these players, or all of these players, is going to do, and whether or not if they will make the cut when the qualification for the Olympics in 2020 is going to begin. Hopefully, Jason Kreis is the right man to lead this team to the Olympics in 2020, because the U.S., I don't believe they have been into the Olympic with the U23 team in a very long time. But something tells me it might not happen, because, like I said, Jason Kreis' last two managerial role has been a disaster. Disco fined Jerso for violating hands to the face policy, and I'm actually surprised that Drew Moore did not get suspended with the hands to the face policy, because, like I said, back in that TFC versus SKC game, it looked like Drew Moore basically puts a hand off of Jerso, and that I don't know how is that not hand to the face. And it's ironic that Jerso himself actually got hands to the face policy, but not Drew Moore when he puts his hand into Jerso's face, Jerso's neck. So yeah, that is a bit of a surprise, but it's Disco after all. They are kind of inconsistent in terms of handing fines, and kind of in some way right near the line of what pro, in terms of being very incompetent in terms of handing out fines to players. Izinho, of course, win MLS Player of the Week, which is not a big surprise. Wando, of course, wins MLS Player of the Month and become the first player not named Vela winning the Player of the Month. And again, this is not a surprise because what Wando has done throughout May, and that not only he has broke the record for the most goal ever score in MLS, but he has just been scoring goals more lethal than what Vela and Joseph Martinez has. And when you're scoring goals that you scoring that kind of many goals in such a few games, and your scoring rate is that high and higher than what Vela and Martinez is doing, yeah, you know you're definitely doing something right, and you know that you're probably gonna be the player of the month. I mean, it is incredible what I have seen Wando's done in May, and it's almost like he just turned back the clock back in 2012 of him scoring goals every single game. MLSPA has released 2019 player salary guide with an average base salary of $300,405 or $345,867. Now, this figure definitely is not very big if you compare it to the other league around here in the States. In fact, this is really tiny if you compare it to like the NFL, NHL, or even the NBA base salary. But this is actually about twice as high as the base salary from 5 years ago, which was around $190,000. And this was definitely 10 times even more than what it was 10 years ago when the base salary was only at $30,000. And in fact, when I do the throwback MLS Thursday kind of series where I'm gonna start my first episode tomorrow, talk about the inaugural 1996 MLS season, I will mention the fact that the highest paid player in that season was only earning $150,000 and was only earning about twice or more than twice as amount as the player now earns in terms of base salary. I mean, yeah, MLS has really come a long way in terms of paying players and in terms of players earning money. I mean, right now the highest paid player, which is Latan currently with $7 million. A couple of years ago, nobody would have thought that a player in MLS could actually earn in the million figure and become a millionaire. That's how much the salary has increased, and it's going to continue to increase. As the salary cap continue to increase in these next couple of years, the base salary is going to also continue to increase. Columbus Crew President Tim Butchinko, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, says that he's hoping to open a new stadium in the summer of 2021. And what's also ironic about this is that a couple of hours later, Austin FC, which is Columbus' main rival, one of Columbus' main rival, released their latest stadium rendering and open season ticket holder deposit. It's almost as if Austin just saw that, Columbus, they are thinking about building a new stadium. I think this is a best time to release our stadium rendering because we want to one-up them and that we want to kind of build up this hatred between both of these teams. And I cannot wait until next season when Columbus and Austin is going to be in the league. Well, actually, I think, is it 2020 when Austin come in the league or 2021? But either that, I can't wait until both of these teams is going to play each other. I mean, the hatred in terms of both of these teams. I know Columbus, their main rival is going to be FC Cincinnati, and the whole hell is real kind thing is definitely going to be on display. And in some way, it kind of also describes the situation that Columbus and Cincinnati is going through right now, because it feels like they're in hell right now with the way how bad the season has gone for both of those respective teams. But man, I cannot wait when Columbus and Austin play each other. I think they should just kind of rename, or not rename, but name that derby the Precock Derby, because as everybody knows, Austin FC, the reason why Austin has got an MLS team is mainly because Precourt originally want to move Columbus down to Austin. Of course, that attempt failed because of the Save the Crew campaign, but still Precourt eventually get his wishes at the end and getting his own expansion team that is Austin FC. So I cannot wait to see how that is going to go down. And, in terms of the latest rendering for Austin, I have seen the stadium rendering of their of their new stadium, and it's not really an impressive stadium. It still definitely looked like a very gorgeous stadium, but it just feel like it's not as nice as what you would say with Allianz Field opening this year, and not as nice as what Bank of California Stadium was open a year ago. And they seem to show a lot of just not really like footage of the stadium, but they just show like footage of just luxury boxes and kind of suites inside the stadium, which I don't really feel like they should have shown that to people, because I'm pretty sure that unless you are a fan that is kind of like in the upper class, or you just want to burn some money going to an MLS game, I'm pretty sure a lot of fans are not gonna ever experience those are ever gonna get that experience of going into those suites, because it costs a ton of money. Like, I bet those suites is gonna be like about $1,000, and that you have to have a group to sign up to go into that suite. And some of those club levels, you're gonna have to pay north around $150 or even $200 to just get into it and sit on those club seats. I mean, I know with Allianz Field, the new stadium in MLS, I think Minnesota is charging people like $150 and $200 to just go to their club seats, and it's the same thing with LAFC with Bank of California Stadium, where they're charging people $200 to just go into the club suite. So unless you have money to burn, I don't think you're going to really experience those kind of footage. I mean, it looks nice in those footage, but unfortunately you're not going to get that experience. And yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week. And before I end this video, just a little talk about Columbus planning to open their new stadium in summer of 2021. So, in 2021, I think they'll probably have a couple of options of how they can begin, how their season can play out. They can either do the Portland road, which is basically start the season with 12 game road trip, and then eventually get back at home in the summer so that the new stadium opens. Or they can do the DC kind of road, where they might play 2 games in a neutral ground, and that eventually they will of course get the rest of their home game in the summer of 2021. Or they can do a kind of road that I don't think a lot of team has ever thought of, which is just play in their existing stadium and only play like half of the game in their new stadium. Actually, I think that's more like the Atlanta road, where Atlanta, of course, were playing at Bobby Dodd until they move into Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Although Atlanta, that was their expansion year, and they were just playing in a temporary stadium. Whereas Columbus, they could just play at Montfrey until the summer of 2021, and then they can decide to move in. So they definitely have some option in terms of how they will get into how they will figure out of whether or not if they're gonna play all the home games in their new stadium in the 2021 season, or they are just going to just kind of play all the games at the new stadium and open a lengthy road trip to start the season. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below if I have missed any important news. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.